Good afternoon, Rhody Nation. We are back. It's 2024, and Marks Remarks is back for the start of the spring 2024 semester. As you may have noticed, we are on at a new time. I have my own student slot now. It's going to be Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. going forward. I'm very happy to be back on WRIU, continuing this show, sharing all of the amazing personalities that this university has to offer with you all at home on your drive home from work. Or if you're just sitting in the car trying to find something to do, I'm happy that you're joining me for that little hour of your day. So, for the start of 2024, I was going through my short list of trying to find people to give us a good start on the year. Because obviously, having been gone for a month, I wanted to get back into the flow of things, and I wanted to come back with a bang. And I feel like I've done that today. So today in the studio, I'm joined by one of my good friends and one of the stars of the Rhode Island football program. I'm joined by linebacker aficionado AJ Pena. AJ, how you doing today?
I'm good today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, dude. I mean, I was looking forward to this for a while because there was obviously a lot of turnover with the football team this year. I saw a lot of my good friends take off through either graduation or a number of guys hit the transfer portal. But I was very happy to see that you're staying here, repping the Keaney Blue in Kingston for another season. Yeah. So, I kind of want to just sort of get into that because that was one of the big stories in the offseason for URI football because you're one of the major keys to the URI defense and caught a lot of people, some by surprise, some not, when you hopped in the transfer portal. Many are obviously happy that you decided to ultimately stay. But I'm just curious, what was that overall process like for you? It seemed like it was a relatively quick process in the whole grand scheme of things between you deciding to hop in and then making your decision to come back. So just walk me through. What was that whole process like for you?
I mean, the process, I'm not going to lie, it was very difficult. Obviously, I put, 2 hard-working years to my resume, especially, with everything that came with what I had freshman year at URI. Honestly, that decision, it was very hard. Obviously, there's a new opportunity with this day and age where you can transfer through different semesters or however it works. Definitely just how the season really turned out and how it ended, it was a very bittersweet feeling, the way it ended at Towson, unfortunately. It was just a bad taste in my mouth, and, I noticed that I really loved the guys, and being away and trying to make that decision, all of them were, do what's best for you, it's do what you need and do what's best for you. But I'm hearing that every day, and it just my heart personally was just breaking down day by day, even though, I'm getting these FBS offers and, just the loneliness and just do I really want to actually do this? I had to sit back and actually, do you really want to do this, or can you do it? You know what I mean? And I truly believe, I can lead this team to, bigger thing based off my play, and I can elevate the people around me. So just a commitment from, my teammates, to allow me to come back, because I told them, I obviously I hit the transfer portal. I made that decision. I was in that portal network. But, were you guys willing to take me back? Because, you kind of just almost like committing treason in a way. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously a bit of a weird state. 'Cause, you see, we've all seen that iconic video of after Jaden Daniels when he hit the transfer portal before he went to LSU in the locker room where they were ripping up all of his stuff in the ASU locker room and basically just being real rude to him and everything. So you can see some people can take that in a really difficult manner as that sense of oh, you're giving up on us, whatever. But from the outside looking in, it always seemed to me that Flem and all of the other coaches had really fostered this tight-knit community of all of y'all. And it seems evident from what you were saying, where they were all really just supportive and happy. They were hey, this is something that you want to do. If this is best for you, your career, your family, and everything, that they were supportive. And so it's pretty neat to see that they were all willing to stand by you when you made that decision. And so then when you did hop into the portal, how quickly were offers coming in? What was sort of the level of schools that you were looking at? Were you reaching out to a number of coaches, or were people reaching out to you?
when you're in that portal, right, it goes to like this network of, I don't know how they see it. I don't know if it's a list, but they get this list of people that are entering the portal from different schools, and it's just like I guess it's through, they analyze something called Pro Football Focus, where they keep like ratings of certain players, and that's how people usually go through about it, and they find the Alabamas, who in the FCS is doing well. Like, basically, I think the FBS right now, in my opinion, like, they use the FCS as like the JUCO. Like, they look at that it's not really more towards the high school players unless you're like a blue chip prospect or like a 4-star recruit. So like, it's definitely have changed, and you know, I'm so happy to be a part of this evolution of the game, and all my opportunities, like, I'm just used to what I have. Like, I've never had much in my life, so like now, like, I have to start thinking about the business side and what I want to do. You know what I mean? So obviously, like, the decision for the portal, like, I was thinking about just the whole NFL thing too. Like, can I make it here, or do I have to need to go somewhere else to do that? Like, in my true heart to heart, I believe anywhere I be, I definitely can make a shot. I have a great shot at making it to the NFL. Like, I love this sport so much. Like, I'm willing to do so much for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't stop thinking about it, and it revolves around my life sometimes. People may say that's scary, like, oh, you could do other things, but if you don't know what I've been through in my life, you know what I mean, you don't understand, you know, the pain, you know what I mean, or why I love something so much.
You've dedicated years of your life to this one game, and it's the same for so many different people, and that's why you see these people making these difficult decisions, being like, this isn't anything personal, this is just something that I feel like I have to do for the betterment of myself and my family and those around me. It's a business decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm happy you kind of brought up the notion of sort of recruiting and like how high school recruiting works, because I was curious just about how you sort of got your start into all of this, because when you look at like FCS recruiting, you get a lot more interesting stories of guys coming from a lot of smaller places to get their chance to play college football. So I mean, just like, take me back to high school AJ Pena, playing high school football, trying to really fall in love with the game. Just where did it all start for you?
Man, honestly, bro, like, it started when I was young. You know, I'm from Montclair, New Jersey. I'm from Jersey, so, you know. See how this began. It's a long journey, man. So I'll start basically. So I was living with my mom for a particular time in my life, from like when I was 1 and like about 12 years old, and then after like 12, I moved with my pops. But like through that time, like, I didn't know like what I wanted to do, right? So it's a lot of expectation. My mom, she was like a 1,500-point scorer at Montclair High School. My dad, you know, he's been in and out of playing football, semi-pro. And, you know, I was a chubby kid with glasses, like, just like, I don't even know. I like playing video games, and I like doing certain stuff, right? But, like, when I first got enrolled into football, there was something about it where the physicality aspect of it is something that I connect with. I don't know how to really explain it, but, like, I just love the aggression side of football, because, like, you can literally hit somebody for free and not get in trouble for it, you know, same like boxing, you know, so. But, like, you know, coming up from high school, right, like, it was very difficult because what my body type was, I was a tweener. So a tweener is considered, like, a defensive end and a linebacker, or it could be like an O-lineman mixed with a guard or a tackle, different stuff like that. So my recruiting process was very slow, right? So my first couple of offers, so I was in the whole COVID year, right? So the first couple of offers I got after my junior year. I had Long Island University. It's a small Division I FCS, Robert Morris, and I had Sacred Heart, right? And I honestly felt like I was way better than that just because of what I was doing. I mean, my junior year, I put up 12 sacks, right? And I think that was like in 12 games. And then my senior year, it got cut short, which I had 7 games, which it should have been 8, and I had 12 when I was second in the state in sacks, which I was first team All-State. So after that, right, I had to make a big decision of where I wanted to go to college, right? And I decided to do a post-grad year at Milford Academy. And upstate New York. I had a ball there. I was 17 years old, so it kind of worked out. So it didn't even mean much, really. So I was pretty young anyway. So I decided to, after I graduated that August of, I think it was August 6th, right? And then I graduated in June and July. So I had my training camp all August, and then we got right into the Milford season, and we played a bunch of Division I JV teams. So I played Bryant, ironically, and I played Army's JV team. That was like real, like it's like their 2s and their 3s. Like it's not like, and it's against high school kids. So I ended up breaking the sack record there. There was a lot of great NFL guys that went there. Terrence Knighton, LaShawn McCoy, a couple of names, Terrence Knighton, with 22 sacks. And I got the offer from URI, and immediately when I got that offer, like, mind you, high school, like, URI was looking at me from, like, when I was a sophomore, and they were, like, they said no in the beginning. Like, there were so many, like, I can't even tell you, there's so many coaches that looked, oh, he's too small, like, this, that, and the third, and I fed off that. Like, okay, you think that? Like, you feel that way? I'm going to show you why. Like, I'm going to bet on myself. And I think a lot of people are scared sometimes to take a risk, because how you going to really know what you're going to get out of something if you don't try? Like, go out in just the open. You know what I'm saying? Like, go upstate and, like, you don't know anybody upstate. You're just playing football with people. Like, okay. You know what I mean? So after I enrolled, my biggest reason to enrolling in URI was just, like, the family aspect of it. Like, obviously the facilities, right? Like, they're pretty, they're medium. They're not like, obviously, they're not like a Alabama or Georgia, but you know what I'm saying? The family aspect and the culture of it and the guys there, I just felt such a close family with, and that's something I had in my high school that I could just, like, see, you know what I mean? And just evaluating other things, like who was in front of me too, like, just like the best decision for me was to be at URI at that time, and we had a great season that season, but it was just, the whole process was just an up and down rocky road, but everything turns out right, as we can see now. So,
was it a weird feeling when they offered you, when you already knew they basically said no to you, a few years back?
Well, I knew, like, it wasn't like a no. They just wanted to see more, I guess, but basically it was a no. I'm saying this now because I remember things. I keep my receipts, like, what I mean? When I was in the portal, like, I remember the coaches I used to talk to through high school, and now they're like, wow, like, I fucking see you. I'm sorry. I see you now. But, like, I'm just so, like, it don't even matter at the point. But I'm like, when I'm hearing that now, I'm like, wow, I really genuinely have an impact on this game. Like, now my name is known, pretty well around the country right now. So, you know what I mean, from what I've been hearing. So I'm just happy for myself, and I'm just going to continue on to be the best version of myself, so.
And in terms of making a name for yourself, I mean, you did it very quickly. I mean, when you go back to your freshman year. That was coincidentally my first time covering a team at URI, because my freshman, we started at the same time, and you came in. I believe it was your second ever game at URI. It was the Bryant game. It was here. Mm-hmm. You got 3.5 sacks and 6 tackles on the day against Bryant.
There's an argument over it that is 4.5 actually, which I feel it is. But it's not on there.
Elaborate. I'm curious.
So, like, there was a strip sack there that they didn't count as mine. It was in the end zone. Me and Jake Fire had a half, which would have made it 4, and I would have been
tied for the record.
Yeah. But I got the ball out, so it was kind of like a half. But there was another half one that they didn't throw in there, so it was 4 for real.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Regardless, we're going off of the official record books. You have 3.5. That is the second most in a single game in URI history. It's tied for second most. The first is 4. But just to have gone, because that was interesting to me, because when I had jumped in there, I was like, whoa, like, this kid's a freshman. He's my age, running here, and he's 2 games into his college career, and he's already now in the record book. URI, it's done. And that was very fascinating to me. I mean, just like, once you got through that game, and then all the media around that, because I remember you going to the press conference and seeing you that day and everything else about that, but just like, what was that sort of feeling like? Was that kind of, did you sort of bypass the, oh, okay, welcome to college moment once you hit this?
I mean, honestly, I always knew what I'm capable of, and I was just honestly waiting for that opportunity, and my opportunity came naturally that day. Like, that day specifically, like, I probably got in Stony Brook week 1, that week, and we were like, okay, like, I came in at the end. I had a couple pass rush, couple good reps to see, but then like coming in week 2, I'm not even on the depth chart, you know. And ironically, 2 of the outside linebackers got hurt that game, right? And I step in, and I'm like, wow, like, you better go right now. You know what I'm saying? And like the playbook, I had so much trouble with in the beginning just because of how, like, it's just multi-dimensional scheme that's just like I gotta drop. You know, I'm so used to a specific scheme, but there's one thing that I've always known that I have over a lot of people. I'm a pretty good pass rusher. So like, I always knew like I'm gonna find my fit in this team, but like pass rush was that thing, you know. So going into that game, like I'm just like, wow. Like when I got the first one, I'm like, wow, you just did that. Then I got the second one. I'm like, you just did that again? And then the third one, right, it was just like such a clean one, swipe around the edge. And I'm just like, wow. Like I'm celebrating. I'm like, ah. And then like there was one where he tried to like step in because he saw me coming and then like armed over inside. And that's when I got the half. And then there was another one, the Jake Fire one. He's a coach now. I was blitzing off the outside and he was blitzing the B gap, and we had like a merge sack, you know, and it was awesome, you know. So like, great vibes that game.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, and then you were talking about that you weren't on the depth chart going into that game, but then once after that you were in, like you were in there. Literally. And then next game against Delaware, you had a tackle and a pass breakup. That was another good game for you. Yeah. But then the next game after that is going away at Pitt.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I remember talking to Kasim about that game, and I remember talking to Fred about it too, and they were just talking about just the atmosphere of that game because you're going to not only an FBS school, but you're going to a top 25 at the time FBS school. They were like, I think they were 24th or 23rd.
They were the reigning ACC champs.
Yeah.
The previous year.
So you're going into their house trying to make a statement. Yeah. And I mean, granted, obviously the game did not go how anybody you or I would have wanted.
Yeah.
But it was still a very competitive game where you guys showed your stuff. I mean, just overall, like, walk me through that sort of game for you. Just like the feelings when you first stepped onto the field and stuff.
Man, to be honest, bro, like I nearly cried because like the feeling of just having that moment that I was blessed with, just to step on that field and just breathe in that air of just like Heinz Field. At the time, now it's what, Archbishop or American or something. I don't know.
It's got some new name, I think.
Yeah, so like just TJ Watt, like NFL guy, like he walks that. Aaron Donald, he walks that field. Like you are walking on steps that greats have stepped foot on. Like how could you not feel the energy and the passion in that, you know? If you don't, like, you're just not a football fan and you shouldn't be doing it, to be honest, you know? But, like, coming into that game, right, I'm just looking at the articles coming up, right, because I'm a freshman. I'm looking at the articles, URI, you know. My name's up there because I'm leading the team in sacks, right? And I'm just like, wow, like, you know, we had AJ Penn. AJ Penn was on a visit to, you know, Pitt previously, and he has 3.5 sacks. I seen an article, I'm like, wow, like, this is crazy. Like, honestly, and just, like, taking it all in from a fan atmosphere, like, I was just feeling like I was just floating, living the dream, you know, like, you know, if you go on a vacation to the Bahamas, you know what I mean, I could just, like, it's the same feeling, I feel.
And so, like, interacting with the with your counterparts at Pitt, like, did you get the chance to talk to any of those guys at Pitt that had sort of maybe gone through a journey similar in a sense to you, or just like what they were kind of doing, like dealing with? Like, did you get the chance to talk to like any freshmen at Pitt or any of the other guys that you were defending?
Not in particular, honestly. But what I can say about it is I had a friend on the other team, actually. I think he was a walk-on. I think he was a safety or something like that. I used to be very close friends with him, but he was talking to me about just like how like even now, like I was getting like attention from Pitt, like to get a chip block, because they still recognize stuff. Like obviously Pitt's not obviously they're an ACC team and we're FCS, but they still like, you know what I mean? They still like
They
game
respect
plan.
their opponent. They
Exactly,
got prep, yeah.
exactly. Like, and we weren't no slouch. We gave him some, fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he just, I just remember the advice he gave me. Just like keep pushing and understand what you get yourself into and know what you're getting yourself into. That was probably the biggest thing that I took from him when he told me at the middle of the field.
That's fascinating. And it must be really cool to like hear that, all right, you're one of the guys that they're keeping an eye on as the scouts and the coaches for such a big program, to be like, all right, we have these guys coming in smaller school, but this is a guy that we need to watch to make sure that he's not a problem maker for us.
Yeah.
That must be like a neat feeling to kind of know that, like, all right, like I'm getting that respect this early in my college career. Like it almost just like reaffirms that belief you said you had like all of high school and then during that prep year as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so then moving forward for this, going through the rest of the year, consistently now you are on like towards the top of the depth chart, just continuing to ply your trade, and you are putting wins together.
Yeah.
Putting wins together, and it's seeming more and more like there's a strong chance that the Rams can make the playoffs for the first time in years. Yeah. And then comes the New Hampshire game. Yeah. And this is one of the topics that I've loved talking about with different guys on the football teams. I love hearing from different perspectives how this game went, because that game is one of the most contested, sort of difficult to discuss amongst URI athletics here, just because of just how crazy it ended with the touchdown and everything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just like going into that game for you as one of the linebackers, one of the guys on the defensive end of the ball, I mean, just like what was that game sort of like for you, even toward the end?
Man, you're talking about I do not like the UNH Wildcats. I'll let that be known. Obviously, my freshman year, we had a battle, and it obviously came down to the end. And we know what we saw, the touchdown. That I don't know if it got
touchdown
reviewed.
In air quotes.
In air quotes. But I'm not going to let that. I mean, the play happened. The call, it should have been a better call, but there was a mistake by the safety or the corner. I forget. We were in this type of coverage called Tampa 2, and it was just stress on the safety where he had to play a certain way, and then it didn't, go our way. But this game was extremely personal, considering that our coaches now, former players, Henry Yanakopoulos in particular, and Jake Fire, that was a big part of us winning that game. We wanted to win it for those guys. I don't know if other people were, but I wanted to win it for them because
they were on their way out the door.
They were on their way out the door, but them coaching us with us and being in that game was just it was just an added chip on the shoulder for us as a defense. I think we held Dylan Lawby to 15 yards rushing on 13 carries, but obviously in the receiving game, he made his way. You know, he is. I'm not gonna lie, he's probably one of the best players I've ever seen. What he can do is he makes that team so much better. Max Brosmer, he makes Max Brosmer, he's at Minnesota, look very good.
Yeah.
Just easy check down routes, and he's going for 30. That's the ultimate cheat code for a quarterback. But going into the game, it was a very physical back and forth game. Obviously, you see Brosmer. Brosmer is such a quick reaction. He throws that ball on a needle thread all the time, So, I'm always having to get my hands up as fast as possible. I'm always having to worry if Dylan's running a swing route in the backfield. Just game planning for those two guys, was emphasized to a T. Because those are the guys that were giving us problems, the past basically 2 years. So, game's very personal anytime we play the Wildcats. I don't know if you know halftime. There was a thing where me and the head coach from UNH, we were talking we were saying going back and forth cursing at each other.
This
so
year
it was
or last year?
This year.
Oh, no, we saw that. I mean, that was from when we were looking at it from the press box, we could tell there was something going on. And as the teams were leaving, I didn't realize it was you, but I saw that there was enough that people needed to be separated. So, but there's a lot of bad blood there, and I feel like that's now you've kind of got a little bit of a rivalry, which is cool. Like that having that sort of rivalry.
And also the wide receivers coach at halftime, the UNH, he was talking in pregame to us in the middle. You know how when it's 50-50 and we're on that side and this other side. He's chatting. I'm like, okay, this is what we on. Like this game is personal with them too. Like this is the matchup like in the CAA, like UNH versus I don't care what anybody says, like UNH and Rhode Island. Like that game is a personal game. Like that is known.
That's interesting that the wide receivers coach is chatting before the game, like taking time away from trying to figure out his own stuff to be like, all right, like I'm gonna start talking to these guys. Like
chirping.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so.
That's great. I mean, that just goes to show how serious it can be. Like you can have serious rivalries at the FCS level.
Oh, just know that CAA teams don't like each other. They don't like coaches. They don't like. You got to realize when they recruit, right? When anybody in the CAA gets offered, right? Let's say, right. If you get offered by somebody in the CAA, 9 times out of 10, another 3 or 2 teams of the CAA is going to offer most likely. Just because one school is doing it. Exactly. Just maybe because, all right, like maybe we trying to one-up you. It's how it goes. Like anything's just trying to like.
It's very petty.
Exactly. Very petty, you know. And it's the same thing, you know, just like there's a players portal. Like I like to call it the coaches portal because coaches are in and out too. Obviously, we had you know, our DB coach leave, and we had our, I don't know if this is official yet, but our wide receivers coaches went to Yale. I think that's official already, but I'm going to, you know, but he's going to Yale. Like, it's just a business at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And people are going to recruit you, and if you're good enough, they're going to want you, and then they're just going to, you know, give you that opportunity, you know? Like, it's a sad reality, you know? It's like, you know, anybody at any point in time can contact you, you know what I mean? Like, it's wild. It's wild. It's a wild process.
I feel like because of the level that FCS is at and the fact that you don't see as much money involved as you do in FBS, that almost makes way for this sort of pettiness and stuff where schools will come at each other like that. Because, like, in FBS, like, it's a lot more, to me, it seems to be a lot more individual. Like individually based in the sense where it's like when you're doing the recruiting, like it's a lot more of a money game.
Yeah.
And you like the schools will offer money, but it's not going to be like, okay, if Alabama offers this kid, it's not going to be immediately like Georgia or Florida are also going to offer the guy, because it's a lot more of like, all right, we're looking for seriously like super strong talent. When you kind of look at this FCS level now that it's a little bit lower and a lot of the schools are a bit more evenly matched in terms of talent and what they have to offer, you can get this sort of thing where, like, say URI offers you, and then instantly the next day you got Nova, Elon, and Richmond all offering you because they can kind of offer the same stuff.
Absolutely.
It's really it's interesting that the rivalries that this division can foster.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. But I mean, the UNH game was one that I feel like really sort of spelled how the next season was going to go, because the mentality coming out of that game was the mentality that the entire team took into 2023, which was, we are not letting that happen again.
Regardless of what was happening down the season, like that game in particular, I think you could just tell, like in our team, like not today. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it came down to the wire. You know, they blocked the field goal. Mind you, that team is the number one block. They have the number one in block field goals, I think, in the FCS or in the CAA. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it kind of was really like certain kicks are certain percentages, but like that might have been the only time where it was one of the highest percentages on where that kick might have been blocked, just because of the rate that they were, you know, getting to that. You know, they emphasize special teams. That is that's what shows how close a team is when they like are, how do I explain it? When they, you know, obviously we just think about offense and defense, but there's special teams. Like, that's a big part in transitioning and setting up a game. If you're punting this team at 5 yards, you know what I mean? Like, that's a long drive they got to build. So everything matters in this game, and that's why this game is awesome, because the little things. This game's about inches, and we've seen it. Like, the teams lose off just a postcard when they're measuring, you know, if it's a first down or not, you know? Like, it's Game's awesome.
Yeah, it's why we love sports, why we love football, just because of all the different stuff all the little things that go into it that make it so competitive. And so then once coming out of the season ends in a very upsetting manner. Some people may say that you guys deserve to make the playoffs even with the loss, but that's neither here nor there. You then go into 2023, chip on your shoulder, wanting to really take this season by the scruff of the neck and not have to leave it in the hands of other people. And you going into 2023, having made such a name for yourself on the defense your freshman year, coming into your sophomore year, what was your mentality looking like? Did you feel that you were in a position where you could take up a little bit of a leadership role in the defense? Like, what was your status like heading into this past year?
So I would say, obviously this team this year was filled with a lot of seniors from the past, like 5 teams or 4 teams. So it was honestly set up for having those senior guys to continue on with that type of leadership. Now, I know we lost a lot of stuff on defense, but particularly with the secondary and a couple D linemen and a lot of leaders. So there was a lot of holes open for leadership, in particular in 2023. But like if your coaches have to emphasize those leaders and they need to let them know, like, these are our leaders and, like, there's nothing else like nobody else can do. You know what I mean? There's different type of leaders, like some that lead by example, some that don't talk and just lead, some people who get 4.0s and just lead by, academic stuff, but like I want to lead by, I try to lead as best as I can, but I'm a big believer in just being credible, having credibility, and that's just with anything, like just from a regular, press conference, if it's Jerry Rice talking to a receiver on the field, rather if it's like, I don't know, a random analyst who's been covering the sport or for 20 years but hasn't actually played in the game. You know what I mean? So I would say my opportunity was it was a little bit hard, I would say, because I felt like personally I didn't have that like push that I needed from the coaches, but like I would explain it like they just told me to lead by example and try to, push everything, but sometimes like certain, like the way I lead, I'm not gonna lie, like I like being like, let's go, like stop like BSing this or whatever. Like I'm very hard on it, and sometimes like I don't think people like that, but that's the way I lead. There's different leaders, but this year in particular, I am really trying to elevate myself, because what do these NFL scouts want? Is he the leader in the team? Is he doing this? He's leading all the categories, but what kind of person, what kind of character is he? That stuff is important. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said like the notion of like the coaches, not really pushing you to be the leader in the sense of like being like in the sense that you were just talking about, where it's like you lead as the type of guy where it's like you want to motivate them to do this. It's just like, yo, don't be down on yourself. Get up.
But
let's get going.
Also leading by example,
yeah.
Right? So like when I get, when they see me working, in the summertime, like I don't know, I work so hard in the summer, like, and just seeing me work, I want people to see like, oh, that's a guy like I just want to be around. He gives it all. I know like he's gonna give it all on the football field. Like that's what I want, that effect on everybody. So particularly with me and West, right? Me and him, I feel like we go like he motivates me, right? Big West, he's number 99 on the defense, like, and we lift with each other, right? And we talks of how we can lead this team, and we're quiet sometimes, right? And sometimes we're like, stuff shouldn't be said, and everything's gonna like play out the way you want, but you gotta want change. Like, you can't let something just linger in a team and not address it right then and there, because it's gonna continue on. You can't, because that's just not how football works, You need people to hold people accountable, and that's so important for a team, You know, and obviously we were 6-5, but we are way more talented than 6-5. I can tell you that so much, but it just comes to show you, like, if you don't have those pieces and if you don't have those internal connections where a team is connected, you're not going to be very successful.
I feel like from the outside looking in too, like you could tell that this team was very talented. Like, this was one of the more talented teams that I've ever seen you or I have.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when you're losing guys in to the draft and stuff, like in 2022, like when you lost to Shields and like you lose Ed, like you lose a lot of those guys, but then you're able to replace that because of just how the transfer portal works. But then you're fostering like a lot of these younger guys that came in that were like seemed ready made.
Yeah.
Like Saeed Gibbs, he's now at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like a freshman All-American, like FCS defensive player, like and it's just like defensive player of the year, like just unbelievable sort of players. And to me, like it seems that this program has the astute ability to develop talent really well.
But keeping
is the issue. But that's also, like, I was talking about this with one of my friends earlier. Keeping talent that you develop that quickly can be very difficult when you're an FCS program, one that hasn't had as much success as like a North Dakota State or something.
Exactly.
And it's when you see guys like a Johnny Cornelius, who is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, I'm 100% certain of that.
100%.
100% certain of it. He went from URI, had an absolutely dominant year in 2022. He is now the starting
tackle.
Yeah, right tackle at Oregon.
Yes.
A top 5 team in the country. And not like we're not talking like, oh, he was just like a role player on the team. Like, he is one of their best players on the team.
He's dominating.
He's
not just playing.
No, he is dominating. But that's just one of the guys that this program has developed into superstars. Yeah. Like top end superstars.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that some people, I feel like, may not see that if you don't pay attention as much as like others. Like, when you there are a lot of people that will look at the record 6-5 and be like, oh, these guys aren't that good. But it's no, like, a lot of the games were very close.
Yeah.
There was the one Albany game that was the outlier. Throw the Albany game out because they ended up making the semifinals of the FCS. You could throw that game out of there. Yeah. But the rest of the games were all relatively close.
100%.
And so you kind of look at that and it's like, all right, this team is talented. They recruit very well. It's just, like you said, those little subtle nuances that make winning programs that need to be drilled into everybody so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, I mean, just like we obviously sort of touched on it with, I mean, this year. This year was another good game for you. You started 9 of the 11 games. You had another fantastic year. But just the season obviously ended this year. It was not as like much of like landing on a pin edge, because you had like where if you won the New Hampshire game, you probably would have made it. Like, it seemed like there was already like your fate was sort of becoming sealed as the season dragged on.
I mean, once we lost that Richmond game, I knew it was kind of, I mean, in a sense, I knew it was kind of just over, just because of just like, you really can't lose 3 to top 3 teams in the CAA. That's probably the biggest thing, you know. You got to at least beat one of them for them to either consider you, you know. So, like, it was just so frustrating the way we were better than that team. But like I said, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can be better, but hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And that is the most truthful thing. Like, I've been seeing that for so long, and now I just see it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. You got to have guys. You got to lead. It's no other choice but to lead a team, and I want to do that. Like, and I'm going to do that, you know, so.
And in turn, like, kind of jumping off of that, because obviously we're coming towards the end of our time, but before we get into like the expectations of this coming season, as now someone that's been a part of this program for 2 years, you've been a key part of the program for 2 years now, and as what I expect, at least, you're going to take probably on a serious leadership role going into 2024 as one of the main guys who came back. What were, if you know of any, like some specific stuff that you feel could have been, that can be improved upon from 2023 and 2024? Like, what were some shortcomings from last season that you think maybe added to the pitfall of not making the playoffs that can be rectified in 2024?
We can start with, the culture of the team as a whole. From 2023, it was just not good at all compared to how it was, honestly, in 2022. So having that, we recognized that already, and we let it just sit, and we thought stuff was we were going to overcome all this, but it didn't, and it showed when we faced adversity in games. I don't know if you could tell, just with certain things of people throwing helmets and fighting on the sideline, it's childlike, I would say accountability from both parts, coaches and players. We all together, we are a team, right? We all have to hold each other to a standard to where we can make everybody great, right? Because it's not just about me, right? If it was just about me, right, we can, why are we talking about leadership right now? Why am I talking about these things, So, having that accountability from your teammate to let you know if you're doing something wrong or vice versa, it's so important. And just from a coach's perspective, just to, make sure that they're on the same page and they're not having their minds go other ways because, like I said, this is a game. We got a whole bunch. We're in a new era of the portal. This is a portal, and this is the reality we live in, and that's just what it is. So those are the two biggest things I would say.
And so then building off of that, from your own perspective, what do you think the expectations should be in 2024? Because obviously, you know this better than anybody else, but for fans at home, keep in mind that you're graduating your starting quarterback, you're graduating your running back, you're graduating basically your entire receiving corps, you're graduating your entire O-line, basically half of your D-line.
Linebackers.
All the linebackers. The whole team.
Yeah.
The whole team is gone.
Yeah.
At least the notable key pieces outside of you.
Yeah.
And Wesley.
Yeah.
And I think, and probably Fred and a couple.
You got Keys, Marquise Buchanan.
Keys is coming back.
We still, yeah.
But outside of the four of you, it is a very just slim locker room because a lot of guys were graduating, a lot of guys hit the portal, a lot of guys hit the draft. So just from obviously there's probably a lot of things that are still in the works that you can't talk about, but just from what you do know and what you're able to say, what are your expectations for this coming year?
Very honestly, it's very high expectations still, but the biggest thing is just making sure you gotta have all the pieces together. You just have to have a quarterback to be successful, and obviously Kasim, he had a career at Rhode Island, but I feel like we can grow as a team still, you know what I mean? And he's a good player, you know what I mean? But he's doing his own thing, and the program still has to move on, and people still have to carry on this team, So, I love those guys, I know they're gone. Those are, I just talked to Sebi yesterday, Delasudas, he's a center. He was telling me about his Tropical Bowl and how that was going with the combine. Zoe's doing this thing too. It's just awesome to see those guys, doing their own things. And obviously they have laid the forefront, they have been here for forever, and those are guys who have been successful here, So, building this team is still in the works right now, to be honest. I would say, we still need a couple more guys, but I still think the prime pieces are still here, and we just need to continue on building off that.
And so then one final thing that I wanted to hear from you is right now you're 9th all-time in quarterback sacks. From 2022 to now, you got 14 and a half.
Yeah.
That, and the leader is at 33, which is an absurd number. But, guys in front of you, 16, 19, 20, 21, 23, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that you can jump into that top 5 this year?
Oh, it's going to happen. I'm not going to lie. It's a very, listen, I understand, teams prepare, they game plan, but, I trust my skill sets, And I truly believe the year that people think that I had this year, I'm going to double and triple that. And the playbook is just going to get more smaller for me, and I'm just going to continue on, figuring out how I can get to this spot faster.
You heard it here, folks. AJ Pena is inevitable, and it's just gonna be a matter of time. But AJ, I know you gotta go to class. I know I got class in a little bit too. So thank you everybody for tuning in today and watching. I'm very happy to be back in the studio. We're gonna be, like I said at the start, it's gonna be every Wednesday, 1 to 2 p.m. here on WRIU 90.3 FM. So again, thank you all for tuning in and listening. AJ, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. I love it. I love talking football. I love talking URI football, and I'm very excited to see how this team continues to grow in the face of losing so many guys, in the face of this adversity. But, I mean, knowing the coaching staff and knowing the guys that are still here, you guys are dogs. So it's just going to be a matter of time before you guys get to clicking again. But, I mean, again, thank you, everybody, for listening in, and we'll see you all next week.